everybody. It's Yaya Han, and I'm here live on the Cosplay Central Facebook page, which is facebook.com/cosplay. Great URL. But yeah, I'm live here to tell you guys all about my book. This is a great opportunity. Thank you so much, Cosplay Central. If you've been to this page before, or if it's your first time, Cosplay Central is a cosplay-focused platform that was recently launched by ReedPop. I've been lucky enough to go to plenty of ReedPop conventions as a guest here in the United States, like C2E2, and also overseas. I've been to Vienna Comic Con and, just various events throughout the world. And it's just been really great to work with them. And I loved the fact that they created this space where we can have cosplay content. And hi, I'm already seeing people saying hello. Looks and sounds good. Thank you, Ernie. I'm glad to hear that. Phew. So yeah, my book, I can't believe I'm holding it in my hand. This book was a long time coming. It is called Yaya Han's World of Cosplay, and it will be published by Sterling Inc., which is Barnes & Noble's publishing company. And it will be available on August 4th this year. So within this video, you have a link. You can pre-order the book now, and it will also be available as a Kindle download. So I worked really hard on this book for many months, and part of me is like, why didn't I write this book this year? Because I'm just stuck at home for months. And I wrote it last year in 2019, and I had to shut myself in for about 4 or 5 months to write it. And I'm like, well, it would have been perfect to write right now. But anyway, it is done. I'm holding it in my hand. This is the advanced copy. And because I've not been able to do any conventions because of the pandemic situation that we're in. I haven't been able to tell people more about the book. I've just been able to, make some posts, and I made an intro video. So I've wanted to do more of an in-depth session. I'm basically just kind of, killing some time for more people to get in. So, sorry. But let's see. Joy says, I love your hair. My daughter met you years ago at C2E2. You're such a sweet person. Thank you, Joy. You're so kind. My hair is slowly growing out. As you can see, I have not been to the hairdresser for a while. But thank you. I feel like it's still holding up very well, the color. So I hope to come back to C2E2 next year. Definitely. That would be really great. I see Adam. Hi, Adam. Hi, Marshall. Yay. I've seen people that I know. Hi, Ariel. So yeah, let me tell you a little more about my book. Sorry. Very professional. Anyway, so this book is half autobiography and half sort of cultural studies. I specifically didn't want to write a book on how to make costumes. Like, I didn't want to write a tutorial book because there's so many great tutorial books already out there. But what I found was really interesting is sort of to look at cosplay like from a cultural standpoint of view. And I don't think there has been a book written about cosplay as a culture yet. So I felt like, because I've been cosplaying for about 20 years, I've really grown up within this community as well as watched this community grow. I just had a lot of thoughts, and so I wanted to put them all in this book, and that's what I did. So if you get this book and you read it, you will learn a lot about me, but also a lot about the last 20 years in cosplay. And I specifically wanted to focus on the last 20 years. So let's see, more people are coming. Hi, Jaja Young, you said I was a Katsu. You were a Katsu, but you couldn't find me anywhere. I was a Katsu all 3 days. I was around. But Katsu is huge, so I'm not surprised you couldn't find me, because there were some times where I didn't see some of my friends until Sunday afternoon, right before we left. So yeah, not surprising. Anthony, how am I? I'm doing pretty good, actually. How are you? How is everybody? Maybe I should have started with that, since, we're probably all stuck at home, which is a good thing. We should all stay home. But I've been in my house for the last, since February, since Katsu, I've been at home. So yeah, mid-February. It's been 2 months I've been at home. And March went by very slowly. March was very stressful and very uncertain, but April is going by faster, I think, for me. I think like I'm used to the situation. All the conventions that I was going to go to, they all got canceled or postponed. So it's like my travel plans, I know like I don't have to worry about travel plans. And I've been occupying myself by making face masks. I just uploaded a tutorial video if you also want to make face masks, and there's plenty of information about that on that video. I'll also post it to my Facebook tomorrow, probably, so you can watch the video there and find out more about face masks. But you see a stash sitting behind me. Those are going to be donated on Friday. I just have to bag them up and drop them off. But yeah, like that's really all I've been doing is just, hang out, play Animal Crossing. I've played a lot of Animal Crossing. So anyway, hugs from Belgium. Oh, thank you so much. Mercenar, hi. Thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate it. So yeah, let me I don't know. Yeah, thank you. You guys are telling me how you're doing, and I really appreciate it. And it's just really nice to talk to you. So let me read something from the book. That's what we're here for, right? Let's see. So here's the contents page. In the end, I counted with the advice chapters. It's actually about 23 chapters. So the book is divided up in 5 parts. We have the intro part, part 1, Welcome to the World of Cosplay. Part 2 is the history of cosplay and the history of me. Part 3 is the creative expression of cosplay. So I talk about conventions, what it was like for cosplayers to go from fans to being cosplay guests. I talk about photography and social media, and also like that cosplay is now going beyond recreations, where people are doing a lot of original designs and alternate universe designs and such. Part 4 is called The Duality of Cosplay, and that delves more into negative aspects, just like our community is complicated like any other. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and what some of the issues are and how you can combat them. And then part 5 is the industry of cosplay. So I first tell you my story of how I went from an amateur cosplayer to a professional, and also how the industry of cosplay itself developed over the years, and give you tips if you wanted to go pro in cosplay. And then we have the conclusion, which is called The Dream of Cosplay, which I maybe got a little bit from Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. Anyway, let's see. Oh, yes. And if you have any questions about the book, Cosplay Central just pinned a comment. Please be sure to type your questions in the comments. They are moderating, and they will pick out your questions so I can answer them, because I'm trying to read. And so I'm going to read an excerpt, and then feel free to ask your questions during the time I'm reading, and then I will try to answer them. So anyway, I have decided we're going to start reading now. I've decided to read chapter 3 from my book. Here is chapter 3. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, it's called The Boomerang Effect: How Cosplay Bounced from the West to the East and Back. So let me remove my little bookmark. Okay. The first time I made a costume, I had no idea what I was doing. The few people in my anime club that cosplay did it casually, and there were no online resources to learn from at the time. I started in 1999, so spoiler, this is back in 1999. But that didn't matter. I was about to go to my first anime expo, and I wanted to dress up in a costume. I had even chosen the character already. Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho, one of my favorite manga series. He was probably my first Bishonen crush. Yeah. He's an androgynous, fuchsia-haired demon fox who wears a Chinese qipao and kicks ass with a rose thorn whip. Kurama is often confused for a girl because he's so pretty, so I thought I could get away with cosplaying him. There was just one problem. I didn't know how to sew. Thankfully, a fellow club member kindly offered to show me how to use her sewing machine. I learned to sew 2 stitches, straight and zigzag, and how to go into reverse to close off the stitch. It's called back tacking. I went to a fabric store for the first time and bought the cheapest fabric I could in the approximate colors of Kurama's design. After that, the hardest part was figuring out how to read a sewing pattern, but I followed the instructions as best as I could. After a couple of weeks, I had cobbled together my first costume, just in time for 1999's Anime Expo. I couldn't find a red wig in time, so I just let my dark hair hang loose. I didn't wear a stitch of makeup, and I went without Kurama's rose thorn whip because I couldn't figure out how to make it. In the end, my Kurama cosplay was unrecognizable, but I will never forget the feeling of putting it on for the first time. It didn't matter that the character was male and that I didn't know how to tweak my silhouette to look more masculine. I didn't care that no one recognized the character or asked me for a photo. I spent an entire day walking around pretending to be a character I loved. I was able to wear something on my body that I had created from a pile of fabric and thread. That one cosplay experience was all it took for me to become absolutely fascinated with the process of sewing. My mind swirled with possibilities and the hunger to learn more. So here is a picture. I don't know if you can see that there. So this is me in the Kurama costume. And I'm standing with a couple that bought the art piece that I did. I did a Sharon Apple fan art and all in watercolor, and I put it up for auction. Back then, Anime Expo had, I think they still do, have a great auction where people can buy fan art. And so that's little Yaya in her first costume, and I can't even believe I found this picture, but I was like scanning it, putting it in the book. But yeah, and I also talk about my art in my book, so that's a whole other story. Anyway, continuing on. I didn't know it in 1999. Wow, I'm getting a lot of questions. Okay, great. I didn't know it in 1999, but my introduction to cosplay happened right at the beginning of its modern evolution. That year, I returned home from Anime Expo feeling exhilarated, as if I had discovered a new world that was hidden in plain sight from the rest of society. And it was. I had a million questions and wanted nothing more to find out everything I could about cosplay. How could I make more complex costumes? Where could I go to meet other cosplayers? When would the next anime convention be? We ask ourselves that same question right now. I think that's pretty funny, but we're sort of at the same, junction again. Anyway, after spending copious amounts of time on Yahoo and Alta Vista, because that's all we had back then, this was before Google, it became clear that answering my questions would be a challenge. The few cosplay web pages I came across were rudimentary hobby blogs filled with raw HTML coding and pixelated scans of disposable camera photographs. There was no collective listing for geek events or conventions, and only a handful of galleries and reports on past events. And it was impossible to find resources on making costumes. Being a newbie cosplayer, it would have been easy to get discouraged at this point, but as with anything that interested me, I was persistent. After all, I had seen what was possible. During Anime Expo, a group of cosplayers from Japan absolutely stole the show. Every day, they wore different costumes from properties ranging from Sailor Moon to the five-star stories. Each time, this group's outfits looked like they were plucked right from the manga pages. Not only did they have superior costumes, perfect makeup, and perfect hairstyles, they presented themselves with poise and refined elegance as well. At the drop of a hat, they snapped into perfect poses for each character and knew exactly how to stand with one another. I remember wearing my shoddily made Kurama costume, just standing and staring at them in awe. The two who stood out the most were named Barbie and Kaie. I was told by friends that they were theatrical costume designers in Japan who just loved to cosplay and came to Anime Expo every year for fun. Watching Barbie and Kai hypnotize the crowd wherever they went was fascinating and made me wonder what the cosplay scene was like in Japan. During my many hours of online research after the con, I discovered a good number of Japanese websites about cosplay. Without any way to translate them, I blindly clicked links in hopes of landing on a cosplay photo gallery. I was just literally like, random links. I don't know what they say. We didn't have Google Translate. More than once, these rabbit hole searches led me to adult fetish pages. But eventually, I found Barbie and Kaya's photos, as well as a ton of other Japanese cosplay galleries. Every page was stunning, featuring beautiful cosplayers in pitch-perfect costumes. I was struck by the high quality of their photos, from the professional settings and lighting to the dynamic composition and posing. The cosplayers exuded the same living anime figure charm that I saw in person. I felt pangs of jealousy looking at their smooth, cascading wigs and their costumes' futuristic fabrics. Clearly, the cosplay scene in Japan was far more advanced and developed than that of the United States. Once again, my mind was filled with questions. Why don't I have access to these materials? How can I make something like that? And how can I possibly compare to these cosplayers? This curiosity was infuriating, inspiring, and it gave me the ultimate goal to work toward. The most burning question on my mind was where the heck cosplay came from. Compared to the level of Japanese cosplay in 1999, the US scene was a tiny hobbyist community still in its infancy. So, I was quite surprised to hear from multiple sources that cosplay actually originated in North America. That made no sense to me, so I kept on prodding until I realized that, in fact, two separate costuming communities existed at fandom conventions. There were those who made costumes from Western sci-fi and pop culture and called it costuming, and those who dressed up as characters from Eastern pop culture and called it cosplay. Believe it or not, the terminology sparked a lot of heated discussions at the time, mostly over what could be construed as cosplay and how it differed from all the other types of costuming. Depending on how each fan discovered the activity, there was even more debate over where convention costuming as an activity originated. I hope that by sharing the history of cosplay as I discovered it, it will help you understand how the modern era of cosplay came to be. It's a pretty incredible story. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because to read the story, you have to actually read the book. Otherwise, it'll take too long. So that was my excerpt. This was from chapter 3, called The Boomerang Effect, because in fact, cosplay did start in the United States, or costuming started in the United States, went to Japan, became its whole thing, called cosplay, and then came back to the United States and the rest of the world. So I hope you enjoyed that excerpt. I'm going to look at the questions now because I haven't been able to look at any of the comments while I was, here we go. Oh, cliffhanger, yes, sorry. All right, tons of questions. Let me see. So first things about the book itself, can we pre-order your book on Amazon? Yes, it is available on Amazon, as well as barnesandnoble.com, IndieBound, and bookstore, like the bookshop.org link that Cosplay Central posted. So there are plenty of places that you can pre-order the book as of now. Um, let's see. Would I write another book in the future? Yeah, I would write another book in the future if there is a topic that fascinates me and interests me enough to write about. I mean, with cosplay, I had 20 years of experience. I had so many just things that I mean, I live this, I breathe this. Like I can write a book on cosplay. I can't write one on fishing because I don't know anything about fishing, but cosplay, I have endless things to say. So in a way, this book is, you know, it's in depth, but there are certain subjects that I wish I could have gone more in depth. But this being the first book of its kind, like the publisher had certain, requirements and restrictions. So it's like I couldn't go off on a tangent on a specific subject for 1,000 pages. So it's like we were trying to include lots of pictures. Oh, I was going to show you pictures of Barbie and Kaye. I don't know if you can see this, but so Barbie and Kaye and the group from Japan, they were like basically how cosplay is now. It's like they came back from the future. Like their costumes were so legit back in 1999. They by today's standards, they would be considered professional costumes. So for us in 1999 to see these like angels descending, from the heavens, it was mind-boggling. And I give them so much credit for inspiring like this my generation of cosplayers. Like they absolutely blew us away and showed us what was possible. Like without Barbie and Kai and the other Japanese cosplayers, I'm not sure we would have known how far you could, actually push it. Like, oh, you can make real wings and you can make armor and giant headpieces. You can style your wig to really look like Sailor Moon's wigs. So it was really crazy. More book questions. I want to I'll just go through some of the questions about the book in general. What kind of research did you do while writing the book? I've done research for years. This book was I had plans for this book for years, so I collected information and also did research just throughout the years, made tons of notes. Whenever I traveled, I would talk to cosplayers and learn about, how they felt about something. Like these topics that I talk about in the book, they're not like they are definitely told from my standpoint, but I only knew to write about them because I saw that other cosplayers were talking about them. So all the years that I spent at conventions, meeting other cosplayers online, conversing with people in the cosplay community, that was all like real life research. I also looked up a lot of stats. There are things that are sourced in the back of the book. Any stats and specific information I have sourced in the back. And like if I talk about the video game industry and how much money it made in 2018, there's a source for that. So, but I did most everything myself. Like my publisher didn't have the resources on this project to like give me a research team or something. So this was a lot of most everything was done by me. However, I did hire a content editor. Colette Bennett was my content editor, so that she was someone that I hired throughout the process where she could read a chapter and give me feedback right then. And then once I was happy with the chapter, then I would send it to my publishing editor, Kate Zimmerman, and then she would read it and give me feedback. I also enlisted the help of my friend Karen Kuki-san from Germany, because I grew up in Germany and we know each other. So Karen also helped me with some of the just overall like reading over some things and making sure that I was touching on a subject correctly. and I was presenting it in the right light. And then I also had a sensitivity reader that I hired, Bree Chibi Cosplay, and she really helped out on certain chapters about POC cosplayers. And I have a chapter on cosplay the body issue, and so it's like it was really nice to have support within the cosplay community. Everybody that I've mentioned, Colette, Karen, and Bree, they're all cosplayers or used to cosplay, and they, really share the same experiences as I have. So, okay, let's see. Will the book be for sale on my website? Yes. So on my site, yayahan.com, I will have the book for sale. It will be autographed, but I can't promise you that my shipping will be cheaper than Amazon. That's the only thing. Like, Amazon can offer Prime shipping, I can't. So we definitely, like, that's the other reason we try to keep this book not too heavy, so that it's shippable in a media box. And so, but yeah, you will be able to buy it from me in my shop, yayahan.com, and all of that good stuff. Let's see. Wow, you guys are inundating me with questions. It's wonderful. Thank you. And it's really great. Let's see. Oh my gosh. You've made so many costumes. How did you choose the ones to talk about in the book? It's a great question. There are some costumes that just really stand out, that I consider milestone costumes, or costumes where I had like a really memorable experience. So Kurama being my first, and then I have a chapter where it's actually called the Fire Fairy. That's one of my costumes. So the chapter is called the Fire Fairy, and that was one of the first big elaborate costumes that I tackled, and so I write all about that. Later on in the chapter, I talk about my Chun-Li costume. So my Chun-Li costume, which is by an artist, which this design was made by an artist. Yes, Kim Razvan Courtney. She did this Art Nouveau Chun-Li design, so it's not like an official canon Chun-Li, but I really love the design, and so I talk about the experience of making a costume that was not a canon costume. So there's certain things in there. But truly, the book had to be written from my personal standpoint, because I'm not a historian. I don't want to come in and be like, this is the definitive book on the history of cosplay. Like, no, I wanted to share my experiences, and because my experiences are shared by so many other people, I think this would be a great book for people that really might be curious about, how the different nuances in cosplay developed. So let's see. What other questions are there? Do you talk more about how to turn your hobbies into a cosplay business in the book? Yes, I do. I have a whole section on that. And here, so I can show you. Yeah, it's called The Industry of Cosplay. And I have multiple chapters that really share my personal story of how I went from just being a fan at Anime Expo 1999 to quitting my first job to create a cosplay business, and all the different things that worked for me and things that didn't work for me, places that I failed and places that I succeeded. And it goes all the way through my experience being on Heroes of Cosplay, as well as now then becoming involved with the sewing industry, such as designing patterns for McCall's, and working with different companies to bring more materials to cosplayers. And then I do have tips and guidelines for going pro, like for people that want to actually make cosplay into more of a living. I spoke to other professional cosplayers, and they were also really kind to supply me with some pictures. Like Meg Turney gave me a picture of her with her fans. Let's see, I am going to wreck my book during this process. Stella Chu, she has a live stream cosplay show, and so she kindly gave me a picture from that. So just sort of showing you what all the different ways are that you can turn cosplay into a business. I will say the business chapters, they are basic because they could fill a whole book by themselves. And in fact, if you guys read this book and you want to know more about how to do, cosplay professionally, or how to run a small artistic business professionally, there might be material for another book in there. I would want to hear some feedback and want to know if you want to know more about it. Let's see. Thank you so much for all the questions. It's always great when you get more questions that you can answer. Let's see. Can you talk about the cosplay photography chapter a little? So that chapter is called Cosplay in Focus. And I go through kind of like the history of cosplay photography, how it really started off with us just, using disposable cameras and doing like peace signs, like that's how we posed. And I remark on the fact that nowadays we grow up sort of in the age of Instagram, like young teens, they see these celebrities showing them exactly how to pose. But back when I started, like the early 2000s, we were just like, but then I talk about how I got into taking more professional photos, and it was through a friend who studied photography. And then I also met a fashion photographer who was really interested in shooting cosplay just because it was more interesting than, all the fashion things that he had to photograph. Like he thought it was way more creative. And so then I talk about like how SLR cameras became more affordable, and then more people were able to start doing their own photo shoots and how it evolved from there and such. Let's see. How did I feel? How did you feel when you were accepted into the cosplay community? So I definitely go into detail quite a bit because my first couple of years of cosplaying, I was really obsessed with it. Really, really obsessed. Like to the point that other people in the community were like, who is this girl? Where the hell did she come from? Like 2001, that was my year. That was like the year where I won every award, and I made 3 new costumes per convention, and I was going nuts on cosplay. And there is a reason for that, but I'm not going to tell you because I want you to read the book because it would take too long to explain. But there was definitely a reason why I just became so obsessed with cosplay. So yeah, I felt very accepted in the community. I felt like I found my people. But then as my time continued in cosplay, like there definitely were many ups and downs. There were moments where I didn't feel so accepted. I talk about that in here and talk about, what it's like for a subculture like cosplay to slowly grow up in the mid, 2000s. Like we were considered a fringe culture, and one of my chapters is actually titled "The Growing Pains of a Fringe Culture," because there were tons of growing pains, a lot of issues within the community. So yeah. I see my friends. My friends are here. Hi, Fernando, Mia, Diana. Hi, Diana. And Judy, thank you for stopping by. Thank you guys so much. I actually totally cannot even read all the comments because there's so many. So I really, really appreciate it. But let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, about 30 minutes. So I was thinking I have another excerpt that I can read. If there's enough time, if you guys are interested, or I can just keep answering questions. But the excerpt that I wanted to read is called Negativity in Cosplay, Can't We All Get Along? So this is the intro to the part 4, which is called The Duality of Cosplay. And I want to read you the first couple of pages if you guys are interested. Or I can just keep answering questions. What do you say? Asking the community here. Let's see. Anybody, like, it will take about, I would say, 10 minutes. It's not that long. So I wanted to read this because I really care a lot about the subject in the book, and it really is important to me that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know? Like, I want you guys to know that I'm not gonna omit the issues in the community, because there are issues, and it's important for us to talk about them so that we can make it, you know, a more welcoming community. So yes, I see lots of people saying read, so let's read. It'll take about 10 minutes, and then we'll answer more questions. Okay, so this is chapter 11, Negativity in Cosplay. Spill all the tea? Okay. No, that's not the chapter title. That was one of the comments that I just read. Okay, chapter 11, Negativity in Cosplay. Can't we all get along? The first time I received a negative comment on a costume, it was because I wore the wrong type of shoes. They suggested that I was lazy and had done a half-assed job on the costume. The next time I received criticism, I was told that I was too short and did not have the right facial features for the character I was cosplaying. The time after that, I was called a slut because my costume had a rip-away skirt and I'd worn garters underneath. This was for the Moulin Rouge-inspired Miyuki-chan in Wonderland skit, by the way. That was back in 2001. It may come as a surprise to hear about negativity in a community where everyone plays elaborate games of dress-up. However, after 20 years of cosplaying, I could fill a book with all the unkind comments people have said about me. Many other cosplayers could too. It's easy to view cosplay as a fun escape from the real world with its ultra-geeky premise, but we are not free from real-world issues. In the next few chapters, I will talk about why negativity exists in the cosplay community and how you can deal with it. The very nature of cosplay makes it vulnerable to criticism. Just like art, music, and writing, when you create something, it becomes open to judgment regardless of whether you want it to or not. Creators know this and that it comes with the territory. But cosplay has an added caveat. You are the final product. As cosplayers, we not only put our crafting abilities to the test, we present ourselves as part of the finished costume as well. Our faces, bodies, skin tones, and ethnicities are open to judgment along with the quality of our costumes. Because we are dressed up as these larger-than-life fictional characters, it can be easy to forget that cosplayers are real people with real feelings behind their disguises. In the first few years that I cosplayed, I got super upset over negative comments. It got to the point where I would break down in tears in front of my computer. I couldn't understand why someone would go out of their way to hurt me. What did I ever do to them? They didn't even know me. Sometimes I would reply to comments on my photos in my defense, explaining why my shoes were not accurate or why I didn't wear a better wig. However, that only made things worse. My replies seemed to spur the critics on, and the subsequent comments would spiral out of control into nasty expletives. Every time, my adrenaline would kick in and my heart would start beating rapidly. Feelings of hurt, anger, indignation, and dread all swirled together as I refreshed the screen and awaited the next reply. No, attack. My entire body would heat up while a cold shiver shot up my spine. The pounding in my ears would become so loud that I couldn't hear anything else. It took a long time for me to understand that what I was encountering again and again was a form of abusive online behavior. There are some folks who are rude enough to make nasty comments to a cosplayer's face, but most of the time, such criticism happens anonymously, or at least behind an online username or persona. In the cosplay and fandom world, we call this behavior trolling, and it has become a blanket statement for all acts of negative commenting. Trolls are haters for no reason. Their purpose is to leave shitty comments that make you feel bad. There's no way to control them because they do it for fun, and anyone and everyone. At least that's what they tell ourselves. What we tell ourselves, sorry. Don't feed the trolls is a common saying among cosplayers. The implication is that ignoring the comments can solve all our problems. However, as I can tell you from personal experience, seeing those comments at all still takes a mental toll on you. Let's be real here. We can't blame trolls for everything. The criticism we face as cosplayers is multi-layered. It comes not only from trolls, but also the general public, and even from members of the cosplay community itself. These commenters single out factors such as not looking like a character, having the wrong body type for a cosplay, or wearing a costume that's not accurate enough. These kinds of remarks often stem from ignorance and misconceptions, and they are left in reply to cosplayers' social media posts with little regard to how they affect the people on the receiving end. In particular, being told that you are the wrong race or gender to cosplay a character is deeply personal and painful because they are physical attributes that you can't do anything about. With that in mind, I won't say don't feed the trolls to you. Rather, I want to explore the reasons behind these negative behaviors and then talk about how we can combat them within the cosplay community. What drives most cosplayers is the desire to dress up as characters who inspire them. These characters usually originate from established pop culture titles. Many are created as mythical beings. They are gods, aliens, or superhumans in peak physical shape with perfect facial features. In other words, they are a fantasy. Moreover, some of these characters have become significant beyond the works in which they're featured. They're cultural icons, beloved by millions, and familiar figures we grew up watching. At their best, some of them have helped us through dark times in our personal lives and continue to inspire us every day. It is completely normal for fans to develop feelings of ownership over a character. Hardcore fans know everything about their favorite characters, from their backstories to their motivations and their favorite foods. Of course, these fans also have an idealized image of what their favorite characters look like. It is impossible to expect an average person to meet the standard of appearance set by digitally created characters. However, since cosplayers choose to emulate characters with such impossible looks, I think it's easier to compare them to the original designs and point out the differences. In some cases, fans even feel as though they're defending the character's representation when they see a cosplayer's portrayal that doesn't match their internal idealized vision. You don't look like Wonder Woman translates to, you don't represent Wonder Woman as I see her in my mind. And that's a comment that I received, by the way, word for word. While I definitely do not look like the traditional depiction of Wonder Woman in her European-influenced Amazonian glory, at the time I was cosplaying the Amekomi girl's variation of her character. This look came from a line of collectible figures that drew influence from Japanese anime. Not only was I criticized for being the wrong ethnicity to cosplay Wonder Woman, I was also criticized for wearing a costume the commenters thought was inaccurate, but which actually reflected the fact that they had not seen the Amekomi figures before. This brings me to my next point, accuracy. As I previously discussed in Chapter 10, Going Beyond Recreations, there is a misconception that cosplay is all about accuracy and that the end goal is to replicate a costume and a character's look as closely as possible. The pressure to achieve such accuracy can hinder cosplayers more than help them. On a fundamental level, I have to ask, what does accuracy even mean in cosplay? Even if we only look at official canon character designs, there are endless versions and variations for many of them. DC Comics' Batman, for example, has been depicted with dozens of different costumes throughout the years. They range from color block spandex, Adam West, to nipple-centric rubber suit, George Clooney, and even full-on metal tank-like armor, Ben Affleck. Beyond movies and television, there's the Square Enix Play Arts Kai figure version. There are the designs from the Batman Ninja animation that imagines Batman as a samurai, and the Batman Return of Bruce Wayne comic series, in which Batman is depicted as a historical figure throughout various time periods. None of this even gets into the fact that more and more cosplayers are now creating their own original designs and alternative universe versions of characters. My point is, accuracy is in the eye of the beholder. You don't have to use the same exact materials or techniques to recreate the same look as the design you're taking as inspiration. When it comes to translating a drawn design into a real wearable garments, cosplay embody a wide variety of interpretations. Different viewers might see the same anime, comic book, or video character design and interpret it in entirely different ways because the designs are more abstract. They're drawn. Part of the fun of cosplay is that one character can inspire 100 different executed costumes that employ unique materials and crafting techniques. There is no right or wrong way to make a costume, and you can't enforce your perception of a character on another person. I'm here to remind us that cosplay is a personal form of expression. It is not about who you look like, but rather who you want to be. There is no difference between wearing a Captain America t-shirt or dressing up as Captain America. Both fans are expressing their admiration for the character. As cosplay continues to grow and expand, we need to keep an open mind and think of the new people joining our community. They are the most vulnerable to negativity. There are a few long-standing serious issues that have tested the cosplay community time and time again. So let's take a closer look at some of them and talk about how we can address the issues to make the community better. And that's the end of the chapter. Whoa, what just happened? Here we go. So this was the introduction chapter. After this chapter, I have one on the cosplay body issues, why all shapes should be welcome. I also have a chapter called Racism and Blackface in Cosplay, the things we don't want to talk about. And then I have an advice chapter that is Yaya's advice that's called Transforming Negativity into Positivity. So I go into some of the in-depth issues, and then I give you a chapter where I talk about ways that I've been able to handle negativity and suggestions and advice on how you can also combat negativity. So even though this is probably the deepest and maybe like the darkest part of the book, I think it really ends on a positive note, and I also think it's very important to talk about these issues. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an excerpt. Everything is in this book. Just to remind you, for those who joined us later, the book is called Yaya Han's World of Cosplay, and what you just listened to was an excerpt from this book, and it will be available August 4th this year. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And yeah, we can take some more questions. More questions have popped up. I'm going to drink from my Jessica Rabbit glass or cup. let's just answer a question that sort of relates. Do you see more diversity in cosplay and more acceptance now? I'm a big guy and I'm shy on cosplaying because I don't want to be labeled as the fat this or that. So there is more diversity for sure compared to where I started, and I see more acceptance, diversity every year. And but because cosplay is much more mainstream now, what you do is also being seen by more people. So no matter what, if you cosplay, you will be judged at some point. It's just, and I talk about that in the book. I talk about how you can find a community within cosplay. Like, you will be judged. Even I get judged. All well-known cosplayers get judged. You know, my God, like everybody gets judged. Celebrities read like the nasty tweets on Jimmy Kimmel or whatever late night TV show. Like everybody gets nasty comments. That's just part of being alive in the social media age. So basically, you don't let that stop you from cosplay. You know, like if you want to cosplay, you should understand, you know, that this community is there for you, that there is a community for you. So you should want to cosplay as well. But I can guarantee people get called out a lot more. So if somebody's being an ass online and making shitty comments, like they get called out more now than they used to. But yeah, I don't think that should stop you from cosplaying. But you know, everybody will get comments. Like people will get comments for being too obsessed with a character and too perfect as a character. Like when I did Jessica Rabbit, there were people that were like, you know, saying that I was hurting myself because I was corseting myself in so tight. You know, like, oh, you're hurting your health from cosplay. And it's like, you know, I write about that a little bit in here. So, what do you want us to take away or learn from the book? I hope that for people who have been cosplaying, that this book resonates with them and that they can feel like, oh, these issues are not just my burden to bear, because I want people to feel like this is a book for you, written by somebody who knows you and your community to an extent. My experiences will always differ from other people's, but I have a fairly well-rounded knowledge of this topic. It's the only topic in this world that I have a well-rounded knowledge of. It's cosplay. So I hope that for experienced cosplayers, it will be like soothing and nice to read things that they may have thought about but haven't been able to put into words. And for people who have not cosplayed and want to get into cosplay, I hope that this book can really be your beacon of some sort, that you can hold on to it kind of as a safety, you know, piece that can help guide you within this community. I definitely think that I wrote for the most part to the newbie cosplayer, and that I really want this community to be easier to get into and easier to be accepted into than it was maybe for me in the beginning. So yeah. I hope you guys will like it whether you love cosplay or not. Oh, I also hope this book will be great for people whose parents may have like no idea what cosplay is and might be like, why are you doing this weird thing? And I would love for parents to read it and understand that there is actually a lot of substance behind this book, this community, that this thing that we do has a lot of meaning and really fulfills and enriches a lot of people's lives. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's keep going with questions. We're getting into hard-hitting questions now. how do you keep yourself motivated? A lot of us might be having a hard time staying motivated now that all our cons are canceled or postponed. March was not motivating. There were weeks where I just could not do anything. I like the costume you see here in the background, the Camilla costume, is the only thing that I've sewn this year, like the only costume I've made. And it was very hard to become motivated to make it. So it is a bummer. However, I feel so much better now, like, and in a way, what keeps me motivated are you guys, communicating with you. I'm having so much fun doing this. Like, I'm not the best reader. I was really nervous about reading from the book, and going live, it's always unpredictable. So I was a bit nervous today, but I really am just enjoying conversing with you, and I will find more ways to do it. We'll do this again at some point. We'll do more hangouts. So I think that's what it is. Like, thankfully, oh my God, we should be so thankful that we have the internet, that we have this beautiful online community, that we have Cosplay Central making posts every day. Like, there are virtual conventions being held. Arda Wigs just did ArtaCon this past weekend. Craftchella just happened a few weeks ago with like a whole weekend of streamed cosplay educational content. So I think cosplayers, we are very resilient, and we're finding ways to still express ourselves. It's all about expressing yourselves. So it's like, be grateful that we can Zoom each other or FaceTime each other, and we can go live on Facebook, Twitch, or Instagram, and like find ways to just connect with your community online, because we can. If this had happened in '99, like, that would be it for cosplay. Like, it just wouldn't have developed. We would have, what could we have done back then? So it's really good that we at least have what we have. Like, we have all these opportunities these days. Let's see. Next question. Are you doing or considering making a book on how to make your own cosplay costumes, or a guide on cosplay making for beginners? Now that I've gotten this book out of my system, like, this was the one that I was just really dying to write, also terrified to write. But now that this book is done, I might be interested in doing like a how-to book. There have been some great how-to books though, so it's like, I wanted to write a book on information that I didn't see being put in this media format. So maybe, like, I have plenty of time now, so I just would love for this book to come out so that I can get some feedback. I think that's what I really am kind of anxiously waiting for, is for you guys to actually read the book and give me feedback, whether it's good or bad, and then from there think about what I could do to further share more information that might be important. And I think so much about cosplay, like, the making is there, like the maker community is there, DIY, educational info, it's all there. What we need more of is the motivational aspect. Like, we need to understand this community more. We need to understand what cosplay is, why we do this, what we get out of it, and that is going to motivate us to go and actually make these costumes. So that's what I'm hoping to do with this book, is to explain the ins and outs, so you get a full picture, and you feel like, okay, now I'm confident to go buy materials, and I'm confident to put the time into making a costume, because I know what to expect, at least a little bit. I have a little bit of a guideline to what I can expect interacting with people online, the different ways I can interact with people. If something is not entirely pleasant, I'm not just thrown into the deep end. I have like at least some information to help me figure it out. So yeah. Oh, Monica, hi. Thank you for stopping by. It's so nice to see like my personal friends are coming by to support, and I miss everybody very much, and I really appreciate, and it's really nice to like see you guys popping up over here. Aw, so cute. Yay. Let's see. I think I skipped some questions towards the beginning because I was just like, oh, wall of text. And I'll answer a couple more, and then I will wrap it up because we've already been live for an hour. Thank you guys so much for being with me for so long. How stoked are you that Premiere is available on digital for everyone to get into? I'm very excited that Premiere, one of my favorite anime, is now available on digital download. Please, everybody, go watch Premiere. Yes, extremely excited. I've seen it 5 times. I think like 4 times in the theaters and once at the live show in Japan in January before all the craziness happened. It's like I went to Japan, I got to see the Premiere live show, and then I was like grounded for 2 months. Let's see. Will you be able to come up with new cosplay ideas during the epidemic? Yeah, I have plans. I have a house full of fabrics, and I have definitely different plans to cosplay character and make costumes. Motivation is, again, that's the issue. I want to feel motivated to make costumes. Like Camilla, the bunny Camilla, I had a hard deadline. I had to get it done by Easter. That was like, so I went for that. But now I'm really engrossed in making face masks, and that's sort of where I get my zen. Like I could just zone out and sew face masks, and sort of don't have to think about the how to make the pattern, or I don't have to fit it on myself a million times. So I'm just sort of enjoying that sewing process right now. And of course, like making face masks is something that is in shortage of. So I think probably before the end of the month, I will try to get started on a costume, and I will just try to set goals for myself to get something done by a certain date and do a photo shoot. So it's about like, finding the right project that you're excited about, and then that you have materials for or can get materials for. Please don't shop in person. Please shop online. Can't say that enough. Shop online if you can. So let's see. And why don't we just take one more question? Hi, Kirsten. Thanks for coming by. Hi, Dustin. Yay. Yay. So nice. See everybody. Let me see if will I be doing a calendar for 2021? I hope so. I hope I can do enough photo shoots to do a calendar. Like I did not do a calendar for 2020 because I wrote the book. Like please don't fault me for not doing a calendar, because it was, this took up all my time. So I just really I could not devote enough time to making enough new costumes and doing new photo shoots to justify a 2020 calendar. But I do have material for 2021 calendar, so that will definitely be happening. And let's see, I think I answered multiple questions about, last question. How about that? Well, I'll answer one more question, then we'll end it. It's called, let's see, last question. You've done patterns, foam, wigs, fabric, accessories, and now this amazing book. What is next for you? I don't know. I definitely want to create more content for the cosplay community, whether it's materials or tools or patterns or anything. I definitely want to continue with that because that's been so fulfilling. Like I cosplayed for, a decade just for myself, where I was like, oh, look at me, look what I made, look how I look, and and that was great. But once I started doing all the materials and I would see people using my fabrics or using my patterns to make costumes, like that is true acceptance. Let me tell you, or people using my cat ears or wings for costumes. If somebody uses something that I helped design or make, that is acceptance, man. So I feel very accepted into the cosplay community with that endeavor. So I really want to continue with that. But of course, we want to do it safely, and I want to see how, like, I'm asking myself how the cosplay community is changing and evolving through this experience, this collective experience that we're all having, that is definitely going to change all of us. Um, I am asking myself, like, what do cosplayers need and how can I help provide it? So, you know, uh, what's next for me? Let's talk after the book has released, and hopefully by then I will know. But yeah, I definitely have some some ideas. So, all right, I'm just gonna wrap it up because I'm rambling. Sorry, and I'm dying of thirst. Talking nonstop. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This video will continue to be available on Cosplay Central, so if somebody missed it and might like to hear excerpt from the book, please tell them to come watch the video. So, and I hope definitely to see you all again. I hope to do more things like this where I go live and hang out with you, whether it's to make a costume or do another reading or whatever, but we'll see each other again. So stay strong, guys. Stay safe and take care. Thank you so much for coming to my live reading. Bye.